Okay, so today's episode is the why equality in relationships rarely works. So we'll start it off like this. And let's just say this, right? Something all men have felt. And it's a nagging sense in your relationship if you have one, or in the ones that you've watched crumble around you. Maybe it was your parents or your friends. And it feels like something's fundamentally off with them, right? Maybe for you personally, it's like splitting the bills down the middle, right? Sharing chores like clockwork, making decisions as equals, like everybody says you should be, right? Equality. But instead of harmony, there's this undercurrent of resentment. She says she wants equality, but then expects you to lead, expects you to protect, right? To handle the heavy lifting without any complaints. That's your job. You try to play fair, to be the modern man society tells you to be, but it leaves you feeling a bit drained, emasculated, right? Like you're walking on eggshells in your own home. How many men report feeling this? You leave ones in the chat for that. And if you're single and you're scrolling through apps where women list equal partnership as a must have, you wonder why it all feels like a setup for failure. And you're not imagining this shit, by the way. And it's not a personal flaw, like there's something wrong with you. It's just a quiet betrayal of a system that promised liberation, but actually delivered confusion instead. So you have to think back of how we got here, right? So a few decades ago, the push for equality made sense on paper, right? They wanted equal rights, equal opportunities, breaking free from rigid roles that trapped women, right? So they fought for their independence from these, quote, oppressive structures that they had and oppressive men, right? And many of those men cheered for it because who doesn't want fairness? It seemed egalitarian. But somewhere along the way, that morphed into something else in relationships, specifically equality that they sold you on. It stopped being about mutual respect and started meaning identical roles, right? Ignoring the wired indifferences that make men and women click. It's like trying to force two puzzle pieces to fit by sanding down their edges. They might snap together, but the picture's distorted, and regardless, it'll fall apart under any pressure. And how this plays out in everyday life, well, you see it in the average guy's struggle. What is it? You're earning a decent living, right? But somehow she's climbing the corporate ladder faster, embodying the girl boss vibe that everyone applauds. Society tells her to never settle, right? To demand a partner who's her equal in every fucking metric: ambition, income, emotional labor, right? But where does that leave you? If she's the boss at work and expects to co-pilot at home, where's your space to lead, to provide, to feel like a man? Right? The red pill truth cuts through all this noise. Women are hypergamous by nature. They seek men who are stronger, more capable, not fucking mere images of themselves. Equality sounds noble on paper, but it clashes with biology. Men's brains are wired for compartmentalization, problem solving, protection, shit like that. Women's is for like nurturing, empathy, interconnection, all that shit. Evolutionary psychology backs this, right? We have millennia of survival that shaped each of us differently. Men hunted, built, and defended shit. Women gathered, bonded, and selected. It's that simple. Forcing sameness across the board, it doesn't erase that shit. It just causes friction, right? In all aspects, from society to personal. And unfortunately, society doubled down on the disconnect. So the media will bombard us with narratives that men are optional accessories. What are we good for if women can do it all? Right? Girl boss culture celebrates solo success. But when it spills into relationships, it breeds entitlement. She wants equality in perks, but traditional benefits in practice, right? You pay for dates because chivalry, right? You fix the fucking car because you're stronger, more knowledgeable. But heaven forbid you expect her to cook or defer to your decision in a relationship. It's a fucking one-way street. And the stats are grim as shit, right? Marriage rates under 30s have plummeted 67% since 1970. They're only 30% today and dropping beneath that. Pew Research, you can look these numbers up. And birth rates are tanking. We already know that. It's 1.6 kids per woman in the US. That's way below replacement, guys. Because who the fuck wants to build a family in a system that pits them against their partner? Right? Men are checking out. The reason MGTOW rising, right? Other, what could you say? Communities that are considered fringe. It's basically men opting for solitude over constant negotiation. You're not alone in feeling this. It said there's a survey and it says 60% of men feel insecure about their dating prospects in 2025. That's insanity, guys. 60% is insanity. And what happens if you go the dating app route? Well, your average guy, you're going to get ghosted. And women are drowning in fucking options, right? This isn't about rolling back progress. That's not what we're talking about. It's just recognizing the actual scam. The equality they were sold was, things like legal and social, great, but not relational sameness. It doesn't work. Fighting for equal pay and rights, cool story, bro. Essential, great. I get it. Cool story. Equal pay for an equal day's work. But in intimate dynamics, this shit doesn't work because it ignores the hard wiring. Women end up unhappy too with all this, by the way, chasing independence only to, crave stability that they won't admit to needing. The revelation hits, and when you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So things like, for a relationship thrives on the complementary nature, not being carbon copies of each other. You have to have the polarity. That's what's attractive. Red pill just awakens you to this reality. You stop buying into the myth, and that's that. It's a shocker to most people because you're taught the exact opposite. So, you get power in having this realization. You understand that the game is rigged and you don't have to play by its rules. So we're going to dive really deep into unpacking why the relationship dynamics can never work in the egalitarian setup. And it goes far beyond just what we've mentioned here. But from society, we can't be equal. To personal relationships, we can't be equal. To even in the thinking styles, in parenting, we are not equal. But you can't say a lot of this stuff out loud. We don't want to have these conversations just yet.
Carl sent $5. What do you think about reacting to interesting documentaries on Streambo? Chat, drop a 1 if yes that you want it, put 2 if no you don't.
Yeah, we'll see what the chat says. That's a good question. And define interesting. Everybody's got different interests. So that makes that interesting. Interesting question nonetheless. So let's get into the great bait and switch. So what has equality promised us, voice, versus what has it delivered? For the ladies and the gentlemen, all right, let's say this, okay? Equality was for rights, but it does not rewire human nature, okay? So they wanted legal parity in voting, in work, in pay, the women's suffragettes in the 1920s, right? And then you got the Equal Pay Act in 1963. That's good. Congratulations. Then it shifted to relational sameness post 1970s when we got the feminist wave. By the way, CIA funded. A lot of people don't know that. Name her in the chat if you know who the CIA plant was that was pushing feminism. Let's see how many are actually aware. So, has an interesting name. Now, so women gain this economic independence. It's not Susie. It starts with a G. So, or maybe Susan is one of them too. I'm not sure, but the one I know of is a GL something. I'll let you guys look up the rest. So once women gain economic independence, right, and female workforce participation is, up, I think in the latest numbers were close to 60% in 2025. But men lost all the traditional roles without the replacement. So we got dinged there. Okay. Human impact. What was it? The average guy feels obsolete in a world that celebrates independent women. Or let me just say this. Do you ever feel like you've been celebrated for being an average man? Or you've been celebrated for trying to make yourself above average as a man? Or for basics of adulting, do you get celebrated to go to your corporate job where you get babysat? Have you ever been celebrated for something so basic? Okay, of course not.
Hydex Holdings sent $5. What is that yellow stain on the right side of your t-shirt? Can I have it?
Not a stain, bro. It's where the logo used to be. This is what's left of it. You can hardly see the outline left. It says Tribe of Men. Yeah, I washed it too many times. Nobody then. Okay, yeah. But a woman, she gets praised for being average. She gets praised for being a basic adult. She gets praised for literally barely having any agency in her life. That's what's crazy. Barely any. Okay. So, modern misapplications in dating. For example, we see this in Red Pill all the time, right? The equal partners rhetoric on dating apps or whatever. But there's the hidden double standards. The expectations are always there, right? 40% of Americans practice hypergamy. 40%. Hypergamy is just normal to them. Dating up in status, period. It's not just women. Men do it too. They try to date up and get a hotter chick, but for the most part, a guy's cool porking any chick, whatever. That's fine. So of that 40%, when you take the men out, it's a huge, shocking amount of women that are always dating up. Common sense thinking once you learn a bit of red pill and how female behavior is. But for the normies, it sounds like voodoo magic. What? You mean she doesn't love me for me? You mean if I don't provide her with something, she walks out on me? Yes, bro. Actually, yes. Actually, love is conditional. Actually, you don't protect or provide or have a 10-inch meat stick or something that sets you apart that other women want. Yeah, you being a good man, you having a good paying job, a stable life is not enough. Yeah, because if the next guy rolls up with your stats or slightly better, you get traded in. I know, it's a brutal game. I didn't invent it. So, they'll list on dating apps that they want an ambitious equal partner. But what's crazy is they'll filter for the highest earners if they can. Any dating app that has a filter, women will automatically go for the six-figure earners. This is why men on dating apps put shit like private jets, business trips, fucking exotic cars, watches, gold, chains, diamonds, shit like that. It signals high earning potential, and that gets you access to women.
Isaac sent $10. I don't have any proof of this, but I can only go off of logic and deduction. Women were given the right to work due to two entities with vested interests, the corporations and the government.
True. Yes, very true. So there's a word called timophilia. It's the physical arousal towards money, gold, wealth, status. Interesting. Okay. So, by the way, equality sounds like fairness, but in relationships, it's become a rigged game, right? Where men are always losing ground in this. And then you understand that women are wired for polarity. So biological and psychological differences between men and women are huge. So we got shaped through evolution, which is ironically something the left denies. There is no such thing as gender norms. There is no such thing as different wirings in our brain due to the way, evolutionary pressure, you could say. Or if you believe in creationism, like the way God made us, two pieces that turn into a whole. So this dual nature, this duality of man is to be ignored in a postmodernist brain. It doesn't exist. It's a construct of humanity. So they don't admit about, like I said, the brain structure variances. So if you look at a men's brain, essentially it's compartmentalized wiring to focus on problem solving. Stanford studies have shown this, right? And a women's brain is interconnected for empathy and multitasking, right? They have a higher cross hemisphere link than we do. This is normal, right? Testosterone, hormones are big, guys. That drives male risk taking. You know what estrogen does? It fosters bonding. Right? Evolutionary psych roots in hunter-gatherer roles. We are literally rooted in that. So the impact of this is what? The egalitarian societies, they ignore this. And that leads to what you see today. Frustration, right? Men feel neutered, like masculinity becomes somehow toxic. Women feel unfulfilled. They don't have babies anymore. They can't really get men to stay. And the men that do want relationships are being psychologically tortured by these women that want nice guys, but then treat them like shit. So then when men start treating women like shit and start to get more women, are told that that's toxic. But a woman to treat a man like a walking wallet and get everything from him is somehow empowering. But when a man puts his foot down and asks certain things of a woman, demands certain standards, you're an oppressive jerk. You hate women. On and on it goes. You're going against your roles. This is why you're unhappy. But you know who is happy? Typically, conservative women are happy and rate and pull oftentimes far more happier than liberal women who say things like we are equal and no, obviously we should have the same roles in the household, which we know causes problems anyways. So we'll get into that one a little later, but then you have to talk into, if we keep going into the hormonal stuff, you have to talk about the instinctual drives. Like women have a dual mating strategy, right? Hypergamy is real. She wants to, for a lack of a more scientific way to say it, is alpha fucks, beta bucks. It is real. It's real. Dating apps prove this, right? If a man appears dominant, women rate him 20 to 30% higher in attraction. That's it. It's that simple. And we have a provisioning instinct as men. We really do. We want to lead and protect. This clashes with the 50-50 lifestyle, guys, that they try to say. Go 50-50 in everything, but divorce. But divorce, they want everything. That's crazy, though. Think about it. So when we have these mismatched dynamics, Do you know that 25% of young men report chronic loneliness? Let me repeat that for you. A quarter of young guys in relationships where the dynamics are mismatched report feeling lonely. That's insane. You have a partner but don't. We have again, that's the hormonal shit. Then if you go into the psychological studies, we know that polarity fuels desire. We know that the more masculine you are, the more on the polar end of masculine and feminine, those have the highest attraction. A uber feminine woman and an uber masculine man have the highest form of attraction for each other. This is completely natural. When you have two people that are more centered, a feminine man and a masculine woman, she's approaching the side of masculinity in behavior, these people make the worst relationships. There's the most abuse in these, right? The least amount of attraction and the most amount of tension. And they're always vying for power positions within the relationship. This is why they feminize men and turn them into girls, essentially. And this is why they masculinize women and turn them into men, practically. So that where we meet in the middle, like this, we're constantly butting heads because we're not doing what God made us to do. This is the big problem. Why men don't lead and women complain men don't lead, and why men complain women aren't feminine and they're too manly and they're too aggressive and they have too much attitude, right? And all these issues this is the polarity that we're talking about. This is the psychological nature that's rooted into us biologically. Yeah. Equality tries to flatten this shit out and pretend it doesn't exist. But egalitarian couples report lower intimacy. Period. How is that that's your first hint. People that are closer to that middle, crossing into, you have more feminine men, more masculine women, they don't fuck as much. What does that tell you, right? Women in high equality setups, they often crave that kind of leadership from a man, which is why she has a beta bitch at home watching her kids, stay-at-home dads, but she'll fuck the guy in the office that's like a high-flying, type A attitude, multi-million-dollar closing kind of dude. She's boning him at the office, but then has the bitch at home to watch the kids. It's all studied. We've all seen this stuff. Men have reported on it. Then, right, what is the aspect of all this, right? The impact, or you could say some other details. Well, where do you fucking think MGTOW comes from, guys? That's an adaptation to everything that's going on in society. Men are not blank slates. Biology built us as magnets to something else called female polarity, not mirrors. We're not meant to be the same, right? Attraction is through magnetic opposites. When you meet a masculine woman and you yourself are masculine, it's like two norths on a magnet. It immediately goes apart. It doesn't work no matter how much they try to say that this is a human invention, that this is man-made constructs. It isn't. It is. That's why you can look at two types of women, and I can ask you without even seeing. I will describe them to you in as vague as possible. Two women, the same. Think blonde white woman, same height, same body type. One has blue hair, tattoos, piercings, raggedy clothes. Next woman, clear skin, no fucking holes in her body, no piercings whatsoever, in a like flower dress, completely normal looking otherwise. Which one do you think is going to be hotter to every man here? The only guys that would say the other blue hair chick is hot are the femboys that are crossing over to the feminine side of the polarity because they think masculine women are attractive. Sit on that one for a
Carl
second.
sent $10. The documentary Buy a Sludge on Rumble would be an interesting one to commentary on. They show how food is being poisoned with sewage. Chat 1 is yes to no. $300 in super chat if Bo and chat agrees.
Biosludge on Rumble?
Ivy Intia sent $4.99. That reminds me of the video you made about the working woman who wanted to be home more and the home husband making a kid's book. That opened my eyes.
Yes, I'm also live on Rumble, by the way. I just can't, I don't have its chat
Mamba
open.
Mambo _ 1278 sent $5. To think there are people who think race mixing and ethnic cleansing is the only way to save a country is FKN insane.
Yeah, well, that's called a hot take. Not allowed here on YouTube, but you are entitled to your own opinion. And for me personally, I went back to where I was born and found a woman with my same culture, similar at least. And that was my personal choice. You are free in a free country and a free society, allowed to do what you want with whoever you want. I personally want my children to look like me. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you like women of other races, good for you. Follow your heart, my friend, whatever makes you happy. But, you know, I wanted something beyond, quote, love. I wanted culture. I wanted shared history. I wanted the food to be similar, the religions to be similar, the families to have the same kind of culture and society overall. And that's why I made the choice that I made. And I'm happy with that. But to each their own. There you go. In the aspects of relationships that we're talking, culture is another big one, by the way. And we'll talk about, how culture pushes the equality myth. But
Isaac
also,
sent $5. I've always thought women in sundresses were beautiful.
always, because it's very feminine. But we have to talk about, for the password bros, when you have a culture clash between two very distinct societies, that causes a ton of friction in your relationship. Anybody in a multi-ethnic relationship or a multicultural relationship, whatever the fuck, will report to you that it's work. It's extra work. It's an added layer of complexity that makes things more difficult than otherwise it should be, which is why I chose my own people. I'm skipping the extra layer. We eat similar foods. We believe in the same things. We have the same behavioral patterns, right? The same lifestyles. And that, for me, causes the least amount of entry or barrier to entry. Yeah. So for me, Southeast Asia and all these other places were never going to be a real option because, yeah, the cultures are too different. I've spoken to enough men now in, consults in the private community that are in multicultural relationships and have traveled overseas and just had relationships in general, tried to make them work. And I got to say the success rate looks not that good. Not that good. Yeah. Communication is key. And when you can't even communicate on a basic level, or if it's hard, or if they can't understand like something like sarcasm or jokes or, things you grew up with in the culture, it makes things more difficult, man. That's me personally. But that's depending on what side of the aisle you stand on and what your beliefs are, that may have come across spicy to you. But if I'm going to bring kids into this world, I saw what my mixed friends were going through in the United States, and they were never accepted by either side. I think that was sad, honestly. I lived in Atlanta when I was growing up, going to school before I left for California for college, and I had many mixed friends. And for example, one was black and white mixed, and he was never accepted in the black community because he was mixed. He was never one of us. He was a, quote, light skin, and they would dog on him all day for that shit and make fun of him, call him like an Oreo and all that stuff. And then and then his white side never really accepted him either because obviously he was mixed. And so he felt like he was kind of floating in the ether. He never really belonged, and he had a trouble forming an identity of who he was, and he was always forced to pick whenever it made sense socially. If he was hanging with black kids, he would obviously side more with the black side of the family and would lean into that. But then when he was hanging out with the white kids, he would lean into the white side and all that stuff. So he was always forced to pick. Me and him used to have a lot of conversations about shit like that because I experienced something kind of like that, but in my own way. Coming to America as an immigrant, as a kid myself, knowing Romanian and speaking it with my parents, my white friends would come into my house. I'm white, everything looked the same, speak the same, no accent. But when I started speaking another language, I wouldn't say I was outcasted. How would I describe it? I was looked at differently. Yeah. Immediately when an American would hear me speak, they're like, whoa, wait a second. You're not one of us. So I understood, like, we look alike. We look similar enough, but nah, we're not the same. So I know what that feels like to try to get an identity forming. Many of the mixed race people, if I have some in the chat, could tell you that shit. It's a very interesting, I would say, experience to have growing up in the current world. Yeah. I wouldn't want to put my kids through that. So I want my kids to have a strong foundation, a uniform identity, feeling like, they belong somewhere to somebody.
Ivy Intia sent $4.99. As a black kid growing up in the burbs, been there. I'm whitewashed. TF am I supposed to do? A drive-by? I just wanna be me.
Yeah, it's not easy. Okay. Let's continue with the societal reinforcement of what we were talking about, right? So how culture pushes this equality myth on all of us. Start with the media, boys. You already know where I want to go with this. Come on. What do we see in the media? How do they devalue men's roles, right? How do they amplify this illusion? Well, you have one, the rise of the girl boss culture. They glorify the female independence, right? Hashtag girl boss trends all over social media. They're celebrating only solo success without any men. And then, they have messaging that devalues men, right? Like a narrative will say shit like, what are all the good men for? Or sorry, what are men good for? And that shit starts to trend. But if a man said, what are women good for? You get banned. And the self-sufficiency is pushed into women. So, 2025, the media analysis that they've done, it showed, I think this was Pew, 70% of relationship advice pushes never settle for women. Never settle. Everywhere you go on TikTok or Instagram, wherever it's never settle, sis. Never settle until you get boxed wine and cats. Is that what that is? Think about it. So the impact this has on average men is you feel fucking invisible, or you're like an add-on. You're like a purse for her. Or somebody said it right now and just in the chat, a starter husband. Can you imagine you meet a woman, you get on your knees, you ask her, will you marry me? And then you fast forward a few years in your life and she goes, honey, you're just a starter husband. Can you imagine that? That's crazy. So you have that never settle mindset and entitlement. And it's coupled with, women being encouraged to demand equals, at the very least, equal or better, right? So 86%, this leads to single millennials that intend to marry but delay it due to the high standards. 86% in millennials. This shit's affected us already. Think about Gen Z. So in the apps, by the way, I have to come back to the apps because they reinforce this. A woman can get, for like an example, 100 likes in a day, and a man can get 2 or 3 in a fucking month. So men face the constant rejection, which breeds crazy amounts of insecurity in a guy. And I think Match.com reported that, we said it earlier, dude, over 60% of these dudes feel like either insecure that their dating prospects are fucking bleak. And then you have institutional pressure. We have to get into it. Education and work, they now skew female. Universities, 60%, the last one was 60% are women. This is a massive imbalance. And we have policy gaps for this shit. There's no support for male roles in family formation today. Nothing. When do you think we're going to have a conversation? I'm just curious. What year? Put a year on it where we're going to talk about paternal leave when you have a baby. When do you think we'll have paternal leave? Think about that shit. Somebody said 2028. Dude, you're an optimist, aren't you? I like you. 2033, huh? In the United States, you think we'll get paternal time off for having kids? Somebody said 2050 seems more likely. Yeah, 2040 or 2050. My guess will be like 2038. We'll start talking about that when we're already plunging in the birth rates. Yeah. So, Jesus Christ. UBI and they will. UBI will change a lot. Yeah. So, because this is institutionalized both in education and the policy, yet another reason for men to opt out. So, yet more isolation from men. And society sold empowerment to women, but forgot the manual for men. Now we're all paying the price in broken connections. Ta-da. And this, I would say these forces hit hardest in daily life for us. Let's look at the average guy's grind that you're supposed to go to, right? So you're supposed to do, for example, Chase Louise, the stink, not the pink. Remember that one. So what are some felt frustrations for you guys? Okay, dating apps, because we're mentioning them. Fucking disaster. No point in even downloading them based on the last coverage we did. You have no visibility, bro. Your match rate is less than 1%. If you're an average guy, your match rate is less than 1%. Remember that. It spikes your insecurity by 60%. Remember that. Because they did a Gallup poll on men, and 60% of men under 35 feel inadequate. So you're fucked. Imagine you watch a bunch of porn all day and you feel inadequate in your pipe, and now you go on dating apps and you get no matches, and now you feel inadequate as a human being, as a man, right? And if these filters exist, which more dating apps are starting to institute, women we know will filter for height and income. That embodies hypergamy. It's coming. 6'2" and up, or you're done for. So you get endless fucking swipes for women and men. Women get endlessly swiped on, and men just swipe on fucking bots and profiles that never match them back. And you get burned out and you withdraw. That's what you get for this. And then when you go to something like what happens in the home, well, the equality talk is 50-50, bro, right? You do equal chores with me. We'll split up household work. Yeah. But you're still the emotional tampon. You are supposed to have all the emotional labor dumped on you. When her day goes bad, you listen. When your day goes bad, you shut the fuck up and don't burden her any more than you have to. Yeah. So 40% of egalitarian couples argue over decisions weekly. What kind of fucking relationship is that? It feels like a negotiation. It's not a relationship. It's a negotiation constantly. And all this, you put it together, spawns another issue. Loneliness epidemics. How much do you think, guys? The latest poll in 2025, from 15 to 34, what do you think describe loneliness? How many percent of men? We've jumped to 25% of men. And of those, this one's the real shocking one. How many of them you think have close friends? The answer is 15%. Over 1 in 10 have 0 close friends. 0. This is called isolation. That's crazy, right? And we have our digital escapes. Of course, how do you escape isolation? Gaming and adult entertainment. That's how you cope. And I call it cope because more and more guys are doing it at insane rates. Guys, we're talking like some dudes are averaging 15 hours a week on adult entertainment and video games. And MGTOW forums are jumping by like 400 fucking percent or more year over year over year. That's crazy. Yet another reason men are checking out. So, well, how do you say this? Like, why is this possible, Bo? How is this happening? Can't women see what's going on? That's the point. This is the female disconnect. This is why they demand equality, but, instinctively want more than that, right? The patterns reveal the hypocrisy. For example, women's words versus actions. We know about hypergamy. Think about it. They have preferences for guys that are superior to them. They all engage in hypergamy. They act like they want equal partners on profiles, but obviously they seek the top 1% man, pretty much. And it feels like for a guy, like you're on a fucking audition. It feels like when you go on a date, you're at a fucking job interview for a job you'll never get, but you'll pay for her dinner. That's crazy. So women actively say like, they desire leadership. Women want an egalitarian relationship. My man's got to do as much as I do around the house. But then somehow, they have insane standards on top of that, right? They have the paradox of choice. They get so many matches that they can't even pick a man. And when they do pick a man, they're not even satisfied with him. Actually, they'll become dissatisfied because the man they picked, they could replace with something better. We know attraction spikes with male dominance. We know equal relationships stall, always. Yet society still fucking pushes the narrative down their throats. Girl boss, bad bitch, independent, man's gotta pay, chivalry. But also you can't tell me what to do. But wait a second, you're not being a real man and you're not leading me. But also, shut the fuck up, I'm my own woman, I don't need you. Yeah? And it's weird because women will feel burdened by the so-called men that they're told to like. Men will feel undervalued by being the men society tells them they should be, and nobody's happy. She says equal, but her biology's whispering in her ear, stronger, bro, stronger. Yeah? And that whisper becomes a scream in failing relationships. Why do you think so many dudes are getting cheated on today? The disconnect, we have to get real on this one. The disconnect is the hardest in the bedroom. This whole equality myth collides with raw instinct in the bed, guys. Okay, sexual dynamics. Okay, feelings are going to get hurt on this part. So before I even get into it, let's just get to some super chats because I got to be real
Ken
with you
Rose
guys.
sent $5, thumbs up emoji. I don't necessarily agree with racial homogeneity, but I do support conformity, consistency, and commonality.
Yeah, like I said, everybody's got their own preferences. I mind my business, so I expect others to mind their
Isaac
own.
sent $5. I've never felt inadequate as a man, but I've never gotten any matches. All I see on dating apps are gassed up mids and they think they're
That's
above
true.
me.
That's true. Carl said women will not wake up, start dating Walmart cashier. Well, yeah, they would never pick, the Walmart cashier, yeah. You can't teach that verbally to average men. All right, dude, here's the brutal truth, okay? This is where the red pill shines, and Nobody wants to hear this part because it does prey on a man's insecurities, and it is true. Okay, we have to talk about expectations of male performance and dominance in the bedroom. We're already wired for the dominance, right? But biology does dictate sexual leadership. Men are supposed to lead. Men are naturally dominant. This is fact, not just red pill, but this is like studied in the literature. Okay, regardless. I don't care what the societal pressure is. It is what it is. And here's another one. You're expected to perform in the bedroom consistently, not just provision. You're supposed to sling Devil D. You're supposed to blow her mind. Every movie you've ever watched with a dude, there's two outcomes. He's got a small D and he's bad in bed and he gets laughed at and never called again. Or he blows her mind. She's screaming his fucking name out, forgets her birthday, and absolutely goes madly insane for him. Those two. That's it. Tell me I'm bullshitting because it's going to get worse for you. Okay. If you're not rearranging her walls, if her guts do not get rearranged, you're fucking done. You cannot keep your woman. I'm not fucking with you here. You are on a clock. If your dick is small, you are fucked. Sorry, dude. Why do you think dick pills to make your shit grow? Why do you think enlargers or lengtheners or surgeries or pumps or all this stupid shit exists? It's the motion in the ocean. No, you small dick, your boat's not rocking. You leave a bitch shaking on the bedroom, right? On the bed. She's over there fucking Fent zombie style. Okay. Looking like she's seasoned up in shit, like a narcoleptic. You did your job. You're keeping her you have dickmatized her. Okay. She has sprung. That is when, you give her that Fent D. That's when, you know what happens? That's when she starts handing out credit cards. When she starts waking up and feeding you breakfast. When, she's got you riding in her whip and shit. Why do you think the dudes with no jobs, with fucking criminal records, who are fucking for shelter, dickmatize hoes so much? They're laying down pipe for survival, and they get it all. They get it all. They're in the bald, fucking tired Altima with her credit cards, spending her money, getting bought PlayStation 5s, not a single bit of lip. Why? Because they're laying pipe daily, dickmatized. If this isn't true, it wouldn't be so prominent in movies. Society wouldn't be pushing it in movies in general, in the culture. Women wouldn't be talking about it so openly anyways today. You get glimpses of the real conversations women have on like those podcasts where they get to talk about guys, performance, size, all this shit. So an average guy, especially after watching Korn with some dudes with 12-inch meat hooks, just rearranging guts left to right, you're going to feel some performance anxiety. That is going to fucking destroy your confidence. And these women now have 1,000+ body counts. And she probably went and met a horsecock or two. So when you're up to bat, homie, you're coming in with the Pee Wee Leagues plastic, and you think you're going to hit that fucking homer when she had that pro hardwood? Boy, oh boy. It's brutal, dude. It's brutal. Ask women if you don't believe me. And the brutal part of this is, we'll get into it later because I'll lead into this next, the sexual dissatisfaction and how that leads into infidelity. It's huge. I'm not fucking playing. So we'll go into the woke consent model. Let's actually get into that. So thank you. Speaking about small bananas, you better watch out. See, if you got a small banana, you wouldn't even be getting a fucking banana. So the woke consent shit that you got to watch out for is they'll tell you shit like this. Constant verbal checkups, right? May I turn you over, ma'am? Is it okay if we do doggy style? Is it okay? Am I being too rough? Can you sign this paper saying you consented? Shut the fuck up. That kills attraction. Don't ask, is this okay? You're done. She's going to DM all the girls and say, this is the most trash dick I ever had. This dude asked if we could do dog. I'm done with him. You're not getting a call back, bro. No repeat business for you. Number blocked. Don't believe me? Ask around. Okay? That undermines your dominance. Always. That's one of the red pill critiques, and it's completely true. Listen to me. Consent is often nonverbal, but be very fucking careful. Especially if it's a one-night stand and you don't know who this woman is. Nonverbal will land you in jail today. If you are not Casanova slanging meat sticks the size of the pro leagues and she doesn't want it bad, you are at a risk. Okay. So, nonverbal one, I don't recommend it for an average dude because you're already in trouble being average. That's how fucked it is in the world today. Froggy5, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. You probably got a tiny dick, bro. Even though your girl, if you even have one, telling you, motion in the, it doesn't matter. I love you. I still love you. Listen, size doesn't matter. Yeah, go look at her computer. She's probably got a folder called Giant Dongs Destroyed My Guts. I'm fucking with you. Okay. So, obviously, if you keep asking for consent in that manner, you're turning passion into a negotiation, and that leaves you emasculated, and women are not aroused by that kind of shit. So, we have to talk about, again, sexual dissatisfaction and infidelity risks. So, poor performance leads to cheating. They've been polled. These are 2025 stats, 14 to 19% infidelity rate. That often is tied to sexual dissatisfaction. I'll say it again. Poor performance leads to cheating. You can only last so long, be so perfect, never cause a fight or an argument, constantly be her bitch, pay for absolutely everything until you slip up once and she dumps your ass because your dick is trash. Don't shoot the fucking messenger. Now, you can listen to some tard named Froggy in the chat, or you can listen to me and the other guys. Okay. Eating a banana, chilling. You should be in the kitchen cooking something anyways. The fuck you doing? You're watching a stream. That's how I know you're probably a dude. The fuck? Go make your man, go cut some bananas for your man. Fuck you doing watching another man streaming? Anyways, now, the red pill angle on this, boys, is bad dick can't retain a long-term relationship. Hypergamy in a woman, the drive is seeking them for better. That includes dick. Not just more money, but better sexual experiences. So they have this stuff. There's a bunch of studies and researchers that say like sexual dissatisfaction is a huge predictor for infidelity risk, especially in women, especially. Okay. So relationships will crumble as women seek fulfillment elsewhere because they keep getting raw dogged by a bunch of horse D's. And when they meet a guy they like and he's got almost everything, but a bad D, it never lasts. Want to know how I know? Someone in the comment section just said it. Because we were side dudes before. And someone just said, yep, why do you think women take good group trips to Jamaica? Yeah, they're getting black mambas out there. That's what they're getting. If you've ever been a side dude, biggest complaints, boyfriend dick. Biggest complaints, my husband can't smash me the right way. Biggest complaints, I'm not satisfied in my relationship. We have sex once a week, once a month, once in a blue moon. Don't believe me? You're probably one of these dudes. Just saying. You didn't even know it. You thought she really loved you. Yeah. Then she went and got snake charmered up in Gambia and shit and fucking Jamaica. Right? She got some black mambas rearranging her guts. Comes back, hangs out with you, Ted, talking about, oh, he's so nice. He's sweet. Surprise. That baby, that wasn't yours. Get fucked. Don't believe me, though. So, other reality is wealth. And that a guy can use as a compensator. And we're talking about elite marriages. This is why you see these weirdos, these ugly looking dudes in these elite marriages where they're like Jeff Bezos and that weird chick he's fucking married to. She was a single mother. Sorry, I think she has 3 kids by 2 different men. This is Jeff fucking Bezos. And he married a chick that had 3 kids already. Listen to me here. These elite marriages are fucking shams. It's very strange shit that goes off there. When you're an uber rich man, that shit will offset some of the flaws, like the status and, the wealth balance. That will help with the poor performance. But keeping women, rich guys get cheated on all the time. I swear to you, rich guys' women are absolutely town bicycles. Okay? So they've pulled this. It's from SciPost 2023. Infidelity in wealthy unions are often what? Sexually motivated. Sexual dissatisfaction is a top affair driver in wealthy unions. So it comes down to dick. Even when you factor out money and finances, guess what? Getting stretched out is their biggest problem. What does this do, though? What do you think happens when a woman meets, say, 20 dudes by 22, and she gets her guts rearranged, her mind blown, and then she meets a guy, and then what do you think happens? You're all good. You're a nice dude. He's great. He's not the best in bed. Not the best. He's okay. Had better. 10 dudes were better. He works hard. He's nice. He provides for me. But that other guy was like more exciting. He treated me like shit. He was a blast to be around. Exhilarating. I had a real attraction to him. I can learn to love him. He's sweet. And, I'm not like head over heels. He's not hot, right? He's not a thrill. Yes, that's a good one. It's not a thrill. But he's safe. Safe is another word for utility. You're only good to fund my lifestyle. And what happens after that? If you act up, if you cause problems and get into arguments, I will put you in your place. I will weaponize. I will make your life a living hell. Once you put the ring on my finger, all of this will disappear. I stop fucking you. I stop giving you emotional support. I start berating you. I start beating you down psychologically. I start to manipulate you in every way I can. And there will be nothing you're going to do about it because I already knew you were a bitch from the start. I accepted your marriage proposal because I manipulated you into marrying me in the first place. You had no experience with women. You weren't even good in bed. You were so fucking blinded by me giving you a half-baked sloppy toppy and bending it over backwards the one time in your kitchen that you then and there decided that we should be married and I'm the woman of your dreams. Thank God I found a retard to bail me out of my problems in life. That's you. Hopefully that's not you, but the caricature of the average guy. This is how we married and then everything changed, sex dried up. That is the best way for you to tell that you picked, or I should say that you got predated on. That woman hunted you. If sex changes before and after a ring, that was never your girl. That she belonged to the streets. You just got vindication. You got real proof. After the ring got on there and the security got built in by the long dick of the law, you found out who you really were. Were you big dick swinging, type A alpha, real raw primal attraction, or was this all an act to secure commitment? Brutal. Somebody asked, but how can you know she's faking? Okay, very easy how to know she's faking. Well, I was going to say there's the look, but there's another way. Does she do things for you? Does she stick to you like glue naturally? Does her inner child come out? Like every waking moment of the day, does she want to spend with you? Does she start to act like a little girl around you? Have you ever seen your woman do that? Where she acts like a child, her inner child comes out? That's one way you could tell. Only some men get that. When she spends her money on you, when she tries to cook for you, when she tries to give you massages, when her day is spent around making your life better, easier, being a part of your day in any way, that's how you know. The average dude isn't getting that. The average dude has to negotiate for time with his woman, has to negotiate for every little thing, has to negotiate for sexy time, for time with the boys, for time for my goddamn self, for everything is a negotiation with these guys from the very beginning. If I be a good boy today and I buy you some nice things and get you some flowers, maybe I'll get lucky tonight. I'd rather blow my fucking brains out. That shit sounds crazy. Okay, so back to these rich people and the way their marriages work. It's a hollow union. That's the brutal truth of it. So wealth will buy you loyalty, but not passion. So that's why rich people have discreet affairs oftentimes. When you hear shit like, I can't believe he's a millionaire and he got cheated on. Yeah, he never had her though. What he did was buy her body to pump a kid in her. Hopefully it's his. And that's his legacy. And he's fucking off running his multi-billion-dollar business. And she goes and does her own thing on the side. They're all discreet affairs because the mismatch is so massive. You think gold diggers with their pristine beauty give a fuck about some fat, balding, ugly ass shit, rich old man? Please, bro, come on. That's not real attraction. He's going to take his wrinkly ass meat stick, put a kid in her, and she gets to have the lifestyle she wants. There's no passion there. There's no real love. They don't believe in that shit. These are pragmatic individuals. One is very rich, and one is very beautiful, and they understand the game. It is a very hollow life, but they understand what they're getting into. And this kind of shit, man, this has cascading effects on society as a whole. We're talking like the crashing marriage rate, the birth rate. We don't form families anymore. The equality myth is not just personal, it's dismantling all of our society. So we're only marrying, or I should say, less than half of us are married in 2025. That's down from 67% in 1970. And that's also down from much higher rates in the 50s. Only 30% of under 30s are married. That's crazy and getting worse, right? So we know that egalitarian societies or ideals, they delay unions. And 41% of those first marriages end up in a divorce. That's crazy. We're talking about the younger people. So again, impact. How does this affect men? Avoid commitment. You don't want an imbalanced relationship. She has far more experience sexually than you do. And the state backs her into fucking basically hiring the long dick of the law to punish you whenever she feels like it. What does this lead to further down the line? Hello, birth rate crisis. 1.6 fertility, like we said again earlier. This decline has been happening far beyond, say 2007, when the whole never settle culture started around. You know how many teen births we have now? I mean, not that teen births were good, but hey, when the pill came on the scene and it fixed teen births, that also had a massive impact on our population growth. They're down to 13 out of 1,000. Listen, teen births aren't ideal, but they did have a positive impact on our birth rate. We just need actual men, I should say teen boys, whatever you want, the 17-year-old, 18-year-old, to have a ladder that can be climbed to support a family. We have such a fucked up economic system that now it takes you into your 30s to become a full-fledged adult and support a family. It used to be in 1950s by 20. By 20 years old, bro, you could have a factory job and pump out kids and your wife could stay at home and you could support the family. Then that went to 25. Then that went to like 28. Then it hit 30. Now it's like approaching the mid 30s. It's taking people until their mid 30s to achieve what they were achieving in the 1940s at like 18 years old with a factory job. You understand? This is underpinned by economics as well. You could afford to have kids that young have an accident. It's fine, bro. Go into the factory. You'll earn a good living. You'll come out with a pension. You can go work your way up into the company. That's dead. You have a kid early today, you're basically going to live a life in poverty.
Isaac sent $5. Real talk, what is considered small? From what I've read, at least in the USA, the average length is 5 inches.
Like I said, average life is hell today. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Average doesn't get talked about. And if you want to know,
Isaac sent $5.
You ain't
if
it.
I remember correctly, less than half of all men throughout history has ever reproduced.
Yeah, genetically speaking, sure. That doesn't stop you from trying, though. Bro, if you got to ask how big is actually big, you're fucking done for. You're cooked. You're cooked, homie. If her jaw didn't drop, if she didn't go, hold on, I can't fit all that in. If she doesn't like pull, if you never got the push, the push on the stomach, on the hip like that, like you can't, you're banned from going that deep. Hold on. If you never got the pushback, you're cooked. You're cooked, bro. Cooked extra fucking crispy, well done. It's over for you. All right. I almost said if her eyes don't cross, you're lost. Oh, shit. Yeah. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but you came here for the truth. That's the truth, bro. You never got the pushback. Start the fucking countdown timer. You're on the clock, homie. Better not get in an argument with her. Yeah. Better not start no shit. Better not be demanding shit either. Better not be telling her what to do and shit. But when you got that long pipe, you could tell that bitch to get in the kitchen, cook some shit, do whatever, clean the house. No problem. Yes, sir. Yes, daddy. Carl said, how long before you leave your wife after no fun? Carl, bro. What kind of life are you living? God. Carl is in a dead bedroom. Carl, please, for the love of God. This man is asking me to tell him when to get out and abandon ship. I can't tell you that, bro. I can't. You're a crazy man, Carl, for asking that question. So, no teen births because we can't afford it, right? What does this lead to? Aging population, fewer families, men without legacies. Okay, That has a ripple effect on society. We're more isolated, no families to keep us bonded and close. The loneliness is linked to a whole bunch of health risks, right? It's like the equivalent of being lonely is like the equivalent of smoking 15 cigs a day, or in Carl's case, probably 30. He's not only lonely, but he's isolated in a relationship, so he feels twice as bad. God damn. Carl. Yeah, someone said, get the Fent chopper. Jeez Louise, bro. So this leads to an economic strain, Carl. We got fewer households, and they mean less stability. So there's 7 million men out of the workforce today. Part of that is from relationship despair, both in and out of them. Carl is in a relationship and he's despairing. The other men don't have a piece of puss to even touch, let alone our homie Carl is in a marriage and he still can't touch it. It's like window shopping every day and being told you can't afford it after you already bought it. Rip Carl. Goddamn. Carl, I feel for you. I can't tell you that answer. I don't even know how long you've been in a dead bedroom for. That's horrible. Rip to our homie. Everybody rip in the chat. Poor Carl. He's just looking for answers. He's looking for a way out. He's cooked. Damn. Okay. So we get civilizations that have no fucking strong bonds. Rip to the social fabric of society. We start engineering this childless, loveless future, all in the name of equality. And then we forget what it means to be human. That's why we transform into different things and identify as a million other things. Yeah? Rip. Okay. So, you want real world proof? What happens? So, couples split everything 50% divorce rate, right? 50% household chores, 50% this. That's all true. The guy who's in the top, say 20% of masculinity, the masculine dude, the guy on that side of masculine polarity with a very feminine woman, they don't have a 50% divorce rate. They don't. Those kind of couples are in the small section of the 20% of happily married and going strong. That's it. The rest are Carl or a variation of Carl. Shout outs to Carl. Got down. Okay. So, do you believe monogamy is unnatural? That's okay. Listen. Yes, it is actually. Biologically speaking, what are you meant to do as a man? Look, we'll end it on this part. What are you meant to do as a man, biologically speaking? Think about it. Spread your seed. Now, society came up both bound by religion, but also society, that you should get a woman, you get a plot of land, you get a family, and you're given a purpose. A lot of that has been taken away. But still, even with those things, you had harems, you had secret lovers, you had bastards as children, right? In olden days, a bastard was a out of wedlock child that you had with some common tavern whore or some shit. Yeah? So it is a evolutionary drive so that we survive, so that humanity goes forward, that men pork everything that moves as much as they can. In today's world, that means the more money you have, the more chicks you can pork, that you can afford to pork. Exhibit A, Elon Musk. How many babies mamas does he have? Andrew Tate. I don't know. Fucking name any other playboy. Blah, blah, blah. More money, more whores, more porking, more kids, more mistresses. If you're in some esteemed part of society, maybe you're a president or a, royal family or something. They still have their bastard kids everywhere. Okay. So yes, we are choosing to stay in a monogamous relationship, religious purposes, but also because it's a system that raises the best future for our society. For example, you can go out there and smash 10 women, have 10 kids, don't be a part of their lives, and hope 2 out of 10 do well and have some kind of talent and make it out. Okay, fine. That's a numbers game, but it doesn't work because you took up 10 women and now there's 9 men who don't have anything. And then that leads to a destabilized society when you expand it to the rest. But if you and one woman invest heavily in your children, how many you have, let's just say 2 or 3, for example, and you put your heart and effort and soul and careful attention into those kids, their outcomes tend to be superior. Now, when you have this over multiple generations, you tend to create a society that's really well tuned, just like, say, European cultures. Just how European society advanced so far beyond, let's just say, The tribes in sub-Saharan Africa is a good example. Okay. Because they had the tribe culture and the village raises a child and the investment in the child was by the village. So they never got like one-on-one direct hyper levels of attention. Then they missed out on some of those developments that you get when you had man and a woman with his helpers on a plot of land farming for some shit, and they were raising their kids to pass the land onto. And some of those kids showed some smarts into some other things, and they went to go do bigger and better things. But in general, the tribe of the whole takes a village to raise a kid produces lower outcomes because the investment in them is lower. The demands on the children are lower. The amount of investment itself is not as personal. It doesn't mean as much. Oh, well, hey, that kid's sick. Well, I hope he does well. Fuck, he died. Okay, well, the tribe's got 20 more. Okay, that's good. But if that's your kid that's sick, if that's your kid that's gifted in something, if that's your kid who shows he's special at something else, whatever, you can augment those far beyond what the tribe would offer, for example. I think that's why that system does so well. I mean, you see it. Asian societies are strong on family. They are outperforming European societies on average. Asians, for example, like say the Chinese or Japanese, higher IQ on average than whites, than Europeans. They're doing very well. They score at the top of the list when it comes to international rankings for education. They are producing the smartest next generation of people. They have, for example, the Chinese are all over AI technology. NVIDIA CEO just said 50% of AI researchers are of Chinese origin today. We're talking the cutting edge shit, not some like code monkey. The cutting edge of AI researchers. China's pumping them out. Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, they all perform extremely well compared to their peers. Do you know why? The family unit. How much time, how much investment does a family put into an Asian child when you compare it to, for example, a European kid? Dude, that kid I had one of my best friends growing up was Korean. That motherfucker was expected to do 10 times the shit I was. You got to learn to play instruments. He's the reason I got into, what the fuck was I doing? I think in 6th grade, bro, he's the reason I got into playing a violin, if you can believe that shit. I did that for one year, and I fucking sucked at it, but through him, I was convinced to play the violin. On top of being a boss at math, they're not just stereotypes, a boss at math, perfect grade school scores, prepare yourself for college, right? And you're expected to help the family, and you got to have a job, and all this other shit, extracurriculars, because that's great. Do I still play? Fuck no, I don't play. I sound like shit, bro. I gave up the violin and started gaming. I got into fucking Halo. You see? Stupid. My family allowed that shit. He wasn't, though. Yeah. There's a limit to it, of course. You have to foster creativity, and maybe that's why I'm doing well in life. I don't know what happened to him after I moved and all that stuff. He's probably doing well. He's probably married, and he's probably got a decent job, and he's making decent money, and he's like, another cog in the machine kind of thing, and, his life will be well because he put in work to get there. I don't fucking know. But it goes without saying that the more investment a family puts into a child, the more it's like a linear relationship will lead to outcomes. So yeah, the village mentality, trash. So then the question becomes, to go all the way back to your question, morally, what should we do as a society? Morally, we should limit. Should we limit or should we not limit men to one woman at a time? Should we foster the nuclear family? Or is that doomed to fail? Right? Are we reverting back to our biological nature? Women being hypergamous and selective, and men pumping and dumping, right? That's, certainly, you can have a moral question. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Because if you look at, let's just use European and Asian societies, apart from the saving face culture that they have, let's just say they do value families far more than European societies or Western, if you include America. So the nuclear family is important. They'll even get into fake marriages to appease the parents. They'll just be together living as roommates. We covered that on the China episode. But they're still facing population collapse.